Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs. Dr. Contrast here, and boy, thank you so much. I've got Doug Shadow and Elizabeth Goodrow from Chicago on board. It's great to have you guys on board here, gang, today, so thank you. Very interesting set of circumstances yesterday. I thought it was interesting that we went through a whole series of 5 steps on the G12 program, modifying the exterior, tuning in on some of the pieces and parts that we wanted to really develop and look at, and also really wanted to take a look at some interior pieces. So we spent the last 5 lessons or so forth in streaming systems trying to revise what we did last year on that G12. Not unhappy with what we did, but just needing to really modify some things, and it was really paid off well. So after about 5 days in a row of doing G12 stuff, being a nice little change of pace for 2 very good reasons. Number one, I've got to really sit back and resolve what the interior is going to look like, and finally fashion it for some production print work and the like. And number two, we really have to resolve what the interior is going to look like so we can revise it for some interior print work. It's just been overall office print work and site print work. So just want to take a bit of a break here today. I thought it'd be kind of fun to go back and just do some generated quick sketches on just developing a form. There's no real subject matter involved here. It's just basic drawing skills in terms of how to put together an idea and what to look for, what to emphasize, and what to leave alone. So we're just going to call this just some product development sketches and let it go at that. It's just an interesting here. It's just Shadow. Hey all, glad to be here. Hey, very good, Bets. Thank you. Hey all, want to do an audio check? Is the overall audio low? Gee, that's a good point. Welcome me. Very good. Well, let me carry on here. I just thought we'd take a second here, and I just want to stress throughout the course of the stream the importance of being fluid and very dynamic and extremely gesturally when you put together a concept sketch. Remember now, when you develop a concept sketch, it's not a final rendering, it's an idea. And the whole principle behind developing an idea is to really just develop an idea. Get a thought down, be very rapid with it, but at the same time, don't prejudge it and don't get into the situation where you think, well, this isn't right, that's not quite right. You're searching for things. So I just want to go through some product sketches here, and let's just start with some basic architecture, real lightly loose. Come back in there and just start to generate a sketch. Just to get the frame in place, real lightly. Now I'll come back in and pick up where that center line is. Just some fundamental stuff to kind of guide you through it. There it is there. Just kind of drop that in perspective. Let's pick a point of reference here and just put a little bit of weight in this thing. Let's do this, and let's do this. Let's come back in again. Pick a reference here and a reference here in perspective. Let's drive that out. Back to that center line. Let's bring this in. Drive that back to that center line. Notice how lucid the sketch is. I'm just exploring overall content first, just to get an idea of where we are. Here we go. Now we've got that down. Let's come back in and add a little bit of substance to it. Let's come back in, pick it up, add that to it, pick up a little bit of that lost side, pick up that up to it. All of a sudden, we've got some shape beginning to develop here, which is kind of fun to work with. Now, let's take advantage of this. Let's take this thing back in space. Let's end it back here. Let's wrap it around. And let's take that same shape and then kind of come back inboard just a little bit here, like there, and maybe here, and abbreviate that. Just notice I'm working very quickly and rapidly on the side of the pencil. I'm not really kind of toning in and really putting a lot of heat to this thing yet. I'm just looking at certain points of reference where I can start to begin to develop this form. Now, true to form, now we're going to start changing the heat here. Let's come back in and say, all right, now this is going to be closest to me. I'm going to beat this up, really weight it up, and let it skip off the page. Skip off the page. I'm back in again and pick up that transition here. Let that fly off the page. Now notice I'm becoming very gesturally, extremely forceful, very dynamic, and extremely quick. Why? Because I don't want to slow down the process. So now that I've got the idea there, I want to come back in and just begin to lift it off the page and give it some character, some reference. Let me turn this pad just a moment here. Let's get back in again. Line weight. Lift this through. Lift this through. Pardon me, I rotate the pad here just a bit. Bring this weight up here. Turn it on here again. And pick up that same weight. There I am, closest to me, and a lot of weight. Notice how all the weights are right in front of me. And as I go away from that thing, I'm going to pick up a little depth in space here, roll that back in space, pick that up. Again, closest to me, fade. This is all fading. Let's come back in. Pardon me as I rotate the pad here just a bit. Now, a little bit of tone work. Real lucid. Into the corners, etc. Now this has a little bit of a peak to it. Let's change and paste that. Let's put a little bit of peak in that and then just drop that back in. Little window here, a readout of some sort. little bit of a trench. Let's take that right back in through here and just put that right into place. Pardon me if I turn this pad around here. And just tone that and move it away from that center line. And then bring that in. Bring that in. Draw through the shape. Into that little form on top here. Into the corner. Back around again. Just striking it very quickly. And letting it fade. Again, line weight, right back in and reinforce that form. So there's a good captive shot right there as to how this whole thing comes together here. Very, very quickly, just a nice little lucid form study. Nothing really planned here, just looking at different shapes and the like to kind of generate some form. Now let's go the other way. It's kind of, again, working very, notice where my hands are in the pencil. Back here. I'm just developing an idea. I'm in a search mode in a sense here. I'm going to come back in, pick this up. Give myself a drive line through here. Same form again. Let's kind of crown. Let's give this a nice big bold cat's eye. Let's do this. Come back in, round this off just a bit. Put a little bit of radius back in there. Notice again, just searching on the side of that pencil. Not being committed to it really fully. Just generating an idea here. Now we come back in. Let's pick up that center line right through here. Now let's pick up this guy. Come right through here and pick that up a little bit. Now let's get this in place. Turn that over and now roll that back. Run it across. Take that back and roll it in. All of a sudden that changes the entire character of the shape. Now what's neat about that is go back in here. Let's put some audio stuff or something back in those corners. Let's do that. A little bit of return here and a little bit of return there. To kind of let you know it lifts off surface just a bit. Comes back down again. Crowns. Now notice, let's pick the center line up. Now let's get this guy firing here. Real solid line weight. Lots of thrust. As it closest to me, as it disappears, fade it. Same thing here. Now let's kind of put a crest underneath. Let's put a little recess in this thing. To me, a sketch should have a lot of melody to it. It should have a lot of really interesting, good question. How do you determine the direction of your shading? Very simply, Bets, I think let's go back and then, pardon me, I just picked up your question now. The direction of my shading is always dictated where the light source is coming from. For example, this is a flat surface, and in essence, if I were to cut a section through this, it's very flat. So therefore, I didn't go to the horizontal, I went to the vertical because the shape is longer. So I turned the paper, and I came back in and toned shadow into light. Same thing here, light source to shadow. So in this case, notice the direction here. Direction is here, away from my light source. Again, over here, away from my light source. Why? Because mechanically speaking, Bets, it's easier to work right to left, or from left to right rather, than it is to kind of force it around and try to force the issue here. Let's utilize that same principle here. Let me stop here. Does that help answer your question there, Bets, before I move on here? It all depends on what the surface is doing. 9 times out of 10, I'll work right back to light source. There are times because of comfort, I'll reverse that and work the opposite direction. In this case, the light source is over here, but the direction's away from the light, so that's one process. This surface dictated another shot at it. Instead of going horizontally, I went vertically because I want to emphasize the depth of that trench. Looking good? Oh, thanks, Bets. Very good. Let's go back into this. Let's go back and hit again. Let's get this up. There it is there. A little bit of return here. Let's get these line weights to turn the corner. Let's put a little recess in this guy. Now, once again, my light source is over here. That tells me I'm going to go from here, dark, to light. Shadow in the brow. Again, a little bit of highlight in there. So that little section right there is really critical. That tells me where the highlight is. We come back in through here, same process. Away from the light source. Line weight underneath. Let it fade up on top. Might be a situation here, for example, where I begin to look at this little button system here. It might be an on and off switch and so forth. I lay that in place. Come back in through here. Again, turn this around. Now I'm going to pick up the radius and come back and just work to that surface. Let that fade. And go right back to it. Rotate it. Oops, pardon me, I lost the pad here. I'm going to get this out of the way here, guys. Sorry about that. Now that I've got that, I'm going to come back in and begin to really enhance what this form is doing. This, over the top of this. Again, much more line weight. And there it is there. Again, just inside that fillet, let it fade. Little shadow drop here. hit it. All of a sudden, hopefully that begins to describe those shapes are doing. Very quickly. Let's come back in through here. There's a bit more time. This might be a reflective lens of some sort. Let's kind of put some pressure on that and let it kind of fade into some sort of a reflected system in the environment. And there it is right there. Nice little thumbnail sketch. Very quick, very lucid, and at the same time, a lot of energy. Let me stop there for just a moment. You notice something taking place here? What's taking place here are an awful lot of paper coming through. I'm not filling everything in. That goes back to your question, Bets, about the importance of working with shading and light source and the like. And the reason that's important, and I'm glad you brought it up, the reason that's very critical, I want to put this back into place here. Where you really want to put this back into place is simply this. You want the object to live a little bit, to give it some breath, to give it some life. And I think that's what it really does. It comes back and to see what the shapes are really doing. But if you cover it all up, then you have to really force the issue. So I let a lot of the paperwork, and notice I'm just working with basic general sections here. I know where the light source is coming in from over here. I'm going to go from that to tone it a little bit. And if I want to put a little bit more shape in this thing, I can come back and still not change a lot of this. If I come back in and put a bit of texture change in it here. So it hasn't destroyed it. So the reason for letting a lot of paper come through is twofold. Number one, it gives the sketch life. Number two, it allows you to go back in and add some detail should you need it once things begin to take place. I mean, you start to see the forms unfold. So let me do this just for a moment. Let's go back and change gears. Let's go back here again. Circle in perspective, drive line, and again, drive line, circle in perspective. Notice how I'm beginning to fade this thing. Again, very lightly. Come back into center line. That's where I am here. I want to come back and pick up a point of a reference. I want to come back into this, that wedge, and then come right back into that wedge, and just start to marry those two shapes together. I'm already setting the architecture up for the sketch. I'm also looking at where the lights. I'm going to come from the other side now with the light source. Now I'm going to come back in through here and go below. Project that through, and go below. Connect the dots. Round it out. Take it in, drop the center line, parallel out, and magically speaking, in a matter of few lines, that form has been developed. I've got an essence now to deal and to work with. I can come back in and add things like, I'll come back in here at the end of this beauty, and I can start to say, okay, now I want to change just a little bit of the architecture. And do this. Where's that reference point? About right there. Draw through it. It's there. Draw through that. And through here, you might have a little bit of return of some sort. That might indicate a little bit of a light or a window of some sort that comes out of that aperture once it's turned on or whatever it does. So again, just really looking at forms. Reflective surface. Get it done in a hurry. Light. Shadow. I've just nestled that shape coming out of that form. Simple as that. So let's come back in again and pick up the surfaces. Let me turn this upside down. It's much easier now. I'm going to pick up some weight. Thick. I'm going to turn it around. Come back in through here. And again, Bets, if you're still tuned in, I went horizontally with that because it's not it's a much, unless it's reflective, of course, then I can go vertical. But it's, again, it's a comfort zone. Working with my hand, keeping it nice and parallel, working with it. Let's trench that in. Let's work up that light source. Let's get that guy to work. Now let's come back in and just fade this thing. Let's put a little bit of surface in this guy now. Notice, side of pencil. That's where that radius is. Great tool. It's almost like painting. Come back in again. Pick up the highlights down below here where this thing begins to fade. Come back in. Working vertically now because it's a cylinder. Honoring the shape. Letting it fade. Back in again. reflecting that back in. Fade. Come back in again. Take that little offset right through the shape to give myself a little bit of a radius. That tells me there's a fillet or a radius right in through here. Let me stop there for a moment. Does that make sense, gang? Draw it like you mean it. Really makes it jump off the page with the line weight changes. Yeah, it does, Bets. I think that's the critical part about the drawing phenomenon. It's the line weight that does the work for you. I mean, there are a lot of things. Again, let me stop here for a moment. Just kind of review some things here. The method to the madness is start the architecture lightly. Keep it light until it's right. Then all of a sudden you begin to build into this thing. Once you start to see it emerge, now you can go back in and power this thing up in terms of learning how to put together the right concept and the right information and how to develop this form very freely. So let's kind of go back in again and talk about line weight. Now, thick, thin, fade it away. I can keep adding to this. I can add maybe a couple little elements like this, some audio pieces, changes the character of the entire shape. Let me turn this around. And look what that does as well. What that helps you do is help the viewer understand what you're referring to, what the concept is all about. The more you begin to add certain things to it, the more interesting it is. I clipped a video this morning from my website, and it was a very simple concept, and I think we're trying to portray that here today with these sketches. And the axiom, the concept goes like this. Don't try to resolve what you see. Let what you see reveal what needs to be seen. No, if we try to go through a sketch and we got, oh, that's resolved. One of the great powerful things about drawing to me is this. When you begin to draw something, you begin to see it in your mind's eye, and you begin to create things, and you start to really harmonize with it. Yeah, you'll resolve some things, but the important thing is as well is it'll reveal some things, and it's a bigger world. There's a lot more to explore. And these are very simple, quick sketches, but they tell a story, and I think that's what we're after. Each individual sees things differently, but there's a certain common architecture that helps us see more powerfully, and I think that's part of the whole, to me, the magic of drawing or creativity. It's infinite. So the more you begin to let infinity work on the paper, I hope I'm making sense here, the more you work with infinity on the paper, the stronger it's going to become, because you're locked into a pattern. You're not confined. It's extremely liberating. So the whole idea is to let these sketches begin to reveal certain things. Yeah, you resolve it. Yeah, there's a resolved shape, fine. But what did I learn out of that? What came as a result of this? As a result of, did I learn more about how to develop round shape? Am I being accurate with form? Did I get that reflective little mirror that comes up out of the surface when it's cranked down or whatever? These things are absolutely critical, and that's part of the magic of this thing. So again, I hope this is making some good compound information for you all to work with. It just really is the revelation to me is critical. Yeah, it's neat to be creative and do some cool stuff, and yeah, the sketches are great, but I don't know, I've got a bad habit. It's not a matter of not being satisfied. I think what I could say is this to help really draft this up. How do you keep the construction lines from becoming too attentive? By keeping them light, Doug. Let me start a sketch, and I'll show you in a moment how that construction lines really can begin to play into the whole process. Let me just turn a page here. We'll use that system. So it's page 1. Let's move along here. I hope this is making some good headway for you there, gang. So the question from Doug is simply this. How do you keep the construction lines from becoming too attention-getting? I think it's, again, getting that pencil back in your hands here, Doug. This is what I refer to as a search mode. This now is a commit mode. Once you're searching, you're keeping it light and very, very, very light until it's right, until you start to see it. Now when you start to see it, you change the whole articulation goes from this to that. Then you start to put the pressure to it. So let's kind of do this. Let's do this. Light. Get the form down. Draw through it. Start to notice I didn't draw what I'm going to see. I built the construction first. Came back into this. Now I'm going to put a drive line in place. I'm going to let that drive line come out here. Draw through this again. Get that round form to come back again through here. Take this back just a touch and let's let this just roll over just another bit. Let's roll this back. There's just an amorphic shape. It has a very little definition yet. I'm just working my way through it. There it is. That's basic form right there, Doug. Does that make sense? Is that helping? Keeping your construction lines right. It's almost like writing and composing a letter or some music. It's just keeping all the notes to yourself and then keeping it very light, and until all of a sudden the sound comes up and then the crescendo hits and you're on your way. So here we go. Let's go back into this thing and do the following here. Let's go back in and look at what's happening here. We go back into this. Now let's take this back. Let's bury that a little bit. Now let's get that highlight line to work in here. Now I'm going to take this shape and start to build a little bit more. Cut across it, cut into it, and then end it. Cut across it, cut into it, and then end it. Extend this back a little bit further. That's going to disappear. There it is there. Now a little switch here. Now there's basic architecture, Doug. Look at that. The form's already generated. So now I'm going to come back in and start to really play up this whole idea of line wake and gesture. And there it is. Hey, Doctor. Hey, Pixel, how are you? Excellent. Yeah, it's good to have you on board there, Pixel. Thank you. Yeah, and Shadows is going to let you in here. Not nice. Anyways, that makes sense for you, Doug, as far as laying the whole idea of construction to me is very, very sensitive. It can be, a lot of individuals start with a concept sketch, for example, and go very hard line. I was trained by Mead and those guys to just kind of lightly go through this, go through a search system. I think that's why going through some lesson planning, for example, very interesting to see that this, when you hold the pencil like this, you're actually searching for certain things. Once you begin to emerge and start to see it off the page, now you come back in and really change gears and articulate from this into that. So it's really interesting, just really interesting how it all begins to unfold. For example, let's just put a little bit more tone into this guy. Just take it up the hill just a bit. There it is. A bit more of that. And there it is. It's a little thumbnail sketch, just developing product ideas and looking at how we can kind of take this whole together. Let's do this. Circle, lightly. Notice where my hands are again. Through the center line. I just picked an arbitrary center line here. Come back in and stretch this a little bit further. Let's work through it. Come off this, pick a point of reference. Notice how I'm using the pencil just like a paintbrush. I'm just walking through this thing, looking at what's going to take place. Now I'm going to put some crown in this thing. Drop this down just a bit more and extend it. adjust it, break this up and extend it. Just changing the character just a bit. And that's the value of keeping things so light and adjusting the center line as I go. Look at that, just moving through it and making those changes as I go. So the next thing I want to do is add a little bit of detail to it. Let's come back in through here lightly. Changing the center line again. Now, really start to really stress what the shape is doing. Closest to me, let it fade. Closest to me, let it fade. Pardon me, did I turn this around? Again, let me stop right there. Look at the definition you're getting there. And I stopped there because I just really want you to see the definition is so critical, because that's what line weight does. That's what developing a form does. You know, just doing conceptual sketches. Again, when I started the stream today, I really stressed the fact that when my definition of a concept or an idea is something you just kind of pick up pieces on. You look at character, you look at a certain amount of flavor, you begin to look at detail work that might lend itself to kind of completing the form, but it really doesn't. It doesn't really become part of the whole concept of being finished. It's not a final unto itself. It's just a really neat system of taking advantage of, boy, you know, there's a really neat set of things I'm seeing here. Now I'm going to reveal it to myself. Now I'm going to resolve that. Now it reveals this. So it's interesting here. So I was in ShadowCam. What do you say here? It went from a flagpole holder to a spacecraft. Interesting. I didn't see it like that. But anyway, that's a nice way to look at it here. So let's kind of keep carrying. Let's carry on here. This nice little symbol folder here. Let's do this again. Slow it down a little bit here. Just again, notice where my hands are. Back on the pencil. Drawing it through it. Now let's put a little bit of heat to it. A little bit of tone. Away from the light source. Pick up the line weight. A little bit of fillet. Very important little aspect right here I want to really show you. This little thing right here, that's where the highlight. That tells me that section has a radius in here and it goes onto the body side here. So those are little things that make a huge difference in the whole idea of developing a concept, that you're not filling it all in. It's just a nice, simple dissertation on what has to take place for the form to read and to become a true concept, in the sense that you're just really generating or sparkling out ideas here. Let's kind of go back and pardon me, I sharpen the stick a little bit here. Go back in behind this thing again. A little bit more tone. And picking up a lot of really laying in a real, almost like a reflective shadow back in through here. Just laying in a lot of heat. Get that change of pace. There it is, a lot of wax going down, but it makes a huge difference to that. And into this little stand. And there it is, little thumbnail sketch. Again, little process piece, just a very simple little stand-up, maybe a product of some sort. It might be a desk monitor of some sort. I'm not really sure what we're looking at here, but again, there's another page of just ideas of looking at developing a product sketch, just conceptual ideas, just looking at form studies, not really putting it down to this is going to be called an X, just ideas, and getting some good form practice in. So let's start another one here. Just hope, any questions so far? Is this helping, gang? I hope it is. It's been a lot of fun to work with here. Just kind of changing pace a little bit, doing some freewheeling material, and hopefully of some interest to you here. So super. Anybody? Any commentary at all? Oh, let me carry on here just a little bit. So we've got, let's go to this. And another little form study. There it is. Interesting. Awesome. You're on Discord. You can post your work. Hey, very cool. This is great. I'm sketching along with you. Hey, that's very good. That's neat. I have to send your stuff along. I want to see what you're doing. That's great. So let's carry on here. Just again, I just want to wrap up some very quick little studies here. Let's just keep going here with this whole idea. I'm going to lean this back a little bit more here. Let's kind of change a little bit of character. Let's get this guy to roll here and do this. Now, let's put a little bit of heat to this thing. I'm going to turn the page here just a bit, give it some weight. A little bit of tone underneath it. Again, closest to me. Let it fade. Let me turn this upside down here again. Closest to me. Let it fade. Now, a little bit of shadow underneath this shelf. Let's get that in there, thick to thin. And now, man, look how that form is just starting to really come off the page now, hopefully. Interesting how it doesn't take much. It's just understanding what the volumes are doing. And there's another lesson in that I'm sure we'll pick up in the next few days or so. Understanding what the volumes do, it's so critical. I mean, everything depends on understanding of geometry. I don't mean geometrical geometry in the sense that it's mathematical, but the geometry of form and surface, what the 5 basic solids are doing. It's all built around that. So let me come back in and sharpen and stick a little bit here. Pardon me, and I just kind of back off this just a bit here. A little bit more shadow to work behind that stand. And last but not least, let's get this shape to read here. I am just exploring forms for product design. No real title. It's not an it or that, just something to kind of work with here. And again, a lot of weight, a lot of weight. And again, just let it disappear. Simple gestures. There they are, folks. There's another little study. I mean, look at, hopefully, let's look at the horsepower in this thing. I mean, it has a lot of emotion, yes. Has a lot of spirit, yes. Should it? Yes, because that's what you are. Our drawings reflect how we feel about what we do and what we see. It's really interesting how that all begins to unfold for us here. So very interesting how that takes shape. So there's another little study here. Let's go back in and I'll draw it back a bit here. Add another little form here. Let me stop for a moment. Any questions so far about what we're going through here? Is this helping, gang? Let's hope this kind of makes some sense for, again, just a nice day to kind of pull back and develop some really interesting shapes and forms and letting it all kind of come together with very, very good understanding of how to develop line, paper, surface, pencil thrust. All these things are captive in generating and developing an idea. Really interesting stuff. Really, really interesting how it all begins to unfold here. And without it, we're kind of floundering all the time. But I think the basic principles are there that it really requires of us to really begin to think about. I've always said this, and I hope I'm not interjecting an odd thought here. But to me, drawing is not visual. Drawing is a thinking process. And the more you think clearly, the clearer the drawings are going to become. And that takes an awful lot of time. I'm still learning. Don't misunderstand. I'm learning an awful lot about what I don't know. And I think that's the neat thing about the whole process of really keeping it all together here. So let's kind of go back in and just wrap up some interesting stuff here. Let's do this. Let's pick up a little bit of radius here. Let's pick up an arc. Again, notice where my hands are in this pencil. I'm not really tuning it in. I'm not going hard line with it. I'm going to draw right through it. I'm just going to create the shapes. Looking for the search. Radius, into a radius. Again, back in perspective. Turn that through, draw it back in again. The vanishing point, there it is. So I'm just going to a simple sweep or a curve here. Now let's put a little bit of body to it. Let's go thin, and let's go thick. Let's put a little bit of definition there, just to kind of tells me that's going to be hollow. That's a little bit of shadow in there. That's starting to tell the story right there. Now I'm going to come back in again. This whole concept of thick and thin, closest to me. There it is. I'm going to come back in again and pick up a nice little design line here, run it through. Pick up the radius here, and then just put a little bit of fillet right in there. Now I'm going to come back in again. Now I'm going to work with line weight. Pardon me as I just kind of switch gears here. Turn it upside down. Closest to me, a lot of weight. A lot of weight. Let it fade. Come back over the top. Finish the line. Move it away. Closest to me, weight it up, let it fade. Let it fade, let it fade. Come back inside here a little bit more. Get this shadow to read a little bit more. On the side of the pencil, tone this surface and bring it right back toward me. Bring a little bit of highlight on this side, or shadow. A little bit of highlight there. That form has a little more shape to it. Bring it back down on the baseline. And again, as we said before, that tells me that this lower piece is a bit of a radius or a fillet. An interesting question. Let's see. Streamlabs, Starship Captain. Pardon me. Sorry about that, Captain Nemo. Hi, Dr. C. Are you already incorporating different material ideas in those studies? Like, for example, piano lacquer and plastic would look different than satin matte or satin. Yeah, definitely, exactly correct. There are certain different finishes in there, Nemo. Sorry I didn't miss your initial question there. I didn't pick it up right. Yeah, there are some material changes in there, for example, things that look reflective, things that look matte, for example. Matte surface will begin to look like this. Just kind of the same tone all the way through. But then a reflective surface, let's add something here, will begin to look like this. A little deeper, and a little bit more jump to it. So it's got a little more melody to it. That's much more reflective. It's a kind of shiny material reflecting the environment. Now I come back into this. It might be a softer surface here. Nemo coming back in, picking this radius up. A little bit of graphics in there. Back in through here, just a little indication where that backside line is. No more, no less. That tells me where I am in paper here. I'm going to come back in and just pick this thing up and add the following. Again, very matte surface all the way through. So I just tone it in nice and evenly. And there it is, Nemo, just like that. and more weight in those circles. Just exploring forms. So does that help to answer your question there, Nemo? I hope that gets squared away here. Interesting question. Yeah, very good. I mean, in regards to shading, very much so. If it's pretty consistent, you're telling yourself it's a matte surface. If it's very reflective or very animated, it's much more of a metallic surface itself, because it's much more chromatic or reflects an awful lot of environmental light. So let me stop there for a moment and wait for the addresser. Nemo, does that help to answer the question? Hopefully. Yeah, that's good. Thanks very much. That helps. Very good. Let's go back in again. Just a little thumbnail study. Let me sharpen a couple of sticks here. Anybody have any other questions? Please let me know. I hope I'm not going too quickly here or out of the realm of understanding, and hopefully telegraphing the concept across here. The idea for today's stream is very simple. It's taking advantage of an ideation sketch. It's bursting into an idea. It's not being complete unto itself. It's just generating shape and form, developing a concept study, meaning developing an idea. Start out by searching certain things. For example, we start out the stream, Nemo, by doing this. There's a drive line. I'm going to put another drive line in place. I'm going to come back in through here, put a radius in place here, drive that through, kick this guy back. Let's just do this. Draw through that, pick that guy back. Then at the same time, take this guy back. This sort of almost developed this flying Z. That's the search. This is where you search, for example, back here. Just being very light, generating through, and developing ideas, and answering Doug's question earlier about how do you keep the construction lines from being part of the clutter. You start very light. Keep it light until it's right, and then develop it from there. Now let's put a radius in this thing. Let's come up with this thing, put a fillet in here. I'm just still on the side of the pencil. Now I'm going to come back in and pick up that same shape and just start to do this. But that's kind of boring. Let's kind of give this thing a little bit of character. Let's get something inside here that does this. Now let's pick that up. Maybe that does that. Yeah, that's cool. Little rabbit ear on that thing. Now we lift it up. That comes back under this piece here. And it rolls into this. And at the same time, it comes across, and that's pretty neat right there. I'm going to keep that nice and light. Now we're going to come back and put a little bit of shape into this thing. Thick to thin. Again, roll out of it again with a little bit more surface. Kick it uphill. And at the same time, kick that uphill and run it back. There's a basic architectural study right there. That's what the shapes are starting to do. Now I'm going to come right back through here into this, into the center line, find out where I am there, roll that underneath, and at the same time, pick this up. Now I'm ready to kind of made some decisions. That's looking pretty good. I've got some pretty solid work to deal with here. I've got the forms working. So now that I've got that, now I'm going to switch from that search mode into this committed mode. Come back in and just now pick up the line weights. Go thick, thin. Weight changes. Turn this around. Thick. Into thin. No need to finish the backside line, just let it fly off the paper. Pick this up. This is going to tell me where my light source is coming from and where my shadow is going to drop. Again, line weight change. And to fill it. A bit of highlight in there. Back in the shadow here. Down to the light source, turn the corner, pick up the line weights. Excuse me. Let the shadow fade just a little bit. All light source, all paper. I'm going to leave that alone as is. There it is. Then coming back in and just put a little bit, just the direction of where the light source is coming from, and I could put a little bit of tone into here so it fades away just a bit, and that's all I'm going to need right there. Maybe a little bit more highlight back in through here, and return the shape. And again, maybe just a little bit of double dipping in through here, just a little bit more contour change to kind of get that to read just a little bit as a valley. And again, a lot of strength in this thing. So there you are, gang. That's a pretty good family of forms, just developing ideas and shapes and the like, and it's just pretty very conclusive in terms of putting it all together. Hey, Doc is telling some DuckTales here. that's right. There's some, yeah. It's just it is a well. The one thing about this whole thing about Nemo, that's a great comment. One thing we don't do is duck the issues. There's no doubt about that. It's a cobra mouse. Hey, I like that even better. Very much of a stinger. That's one of the nice things about exploring shape and vocabulary, because it opens up some things about taking chances in terms of taking how the shape will change and yet still remain consistent in terms of line weights, color, tone, texture, etc. I'm gonna go back to Nemo's question for a moment here. Nemo, I hope that made sense as far as what the materials begin to look like. If it's a matte surface, it stays pretty flush, pretty flat. If it's a reflective surface like this guy, it's a lot more animation to it. It really begins to take much more reflectivity to it. So it's the very same set of circumstances, and it's all line weight related. That's the nice thing about it all. So I hope this is helping here, Nemo, that I didn't confuse the issue here with materials. Let me know if that's okay. I'll just hold on for a minute here. These are just exploratory shapes. What we're dealing with today is just looking through some pretty cool stuff in terms of what perspective can really do for us, what line will do for us, generating an idea. And when we say generate, notice the term, generate an idea. When you generate something, you have to put it into motion. Give it spirit. Put some drive behind it. Give it an impact. Make it sing, and to not flatten out. I mean, a huge difference, gang. Let me stop there for a second. Good. And when you're developing an idea as well, it's always interesting too. Sometimes you can take some pretty strange approaches in developing some of the vocabulary. For example, you can come back with a great big circle like this and just start there and come off of that. There it is. Here's a little three-quarter study. Oh, mixed up here. Let's see. Yeah, sure. I like it. I like it. I was thinking about my project when I have rendered velvet and satin, and both have totally different reflectivity. Velvet is more bright in the rim, satin is more bright inside the surface because the right bounds around the velvet a lot. And only, yeah, that's a great point. Excellent. Well, nice description there all the way through. That's cool. So, trying to wrap up this little form study here. This a concept idea. Something vehicle related, and it's the same relationship. Look at what we're using here. It's the same set of materials. For example, highly reflective soft glass and so forth. Hard lines and developing where the control lines are, etc. Then coming back in and look at the relationship we're making here. It's almost the same set of circumstances, one to the other. Nothing really changes. And I've almost said this too over the course of time and working with creativity and design and so forth, that the objects that we'll see will change, but the process we use to illustrate them will rarely change. It's always a case of being extremely consistent. So I hope this has been helpful here today, gang. A lot of fun and just really interesting. Hey, Chip, how you doing, Doctor? Good to have you on board. I'm sorry I didn't notice your call sign up there a minute ago. Just the whole session was spent today on doing little things like just form study, product development sketches and so forth. Last one. Second to last one, we worked on something like that. We're just going through form and exploration using line weight, shape and tone, and light source and the like. And these are the series of sketches we generated from that. Another plate that we kind of cranked on, just developing form studies. Just looking at shape and the actual distinction of how things go. Hey, thanks. Always fun to learn. Hey, very good. Super. Let's see, up there. And then the next page. Again, same set of circumstances, just using line weight, shape, and form to develop ideas very quickly. These are really fast, maybe at best, what do you think, gang? About 3 to 5 minute sketches, thereabouts. No rocket-powered pencil sharpeners today. No, just some very interesting things like, what did Shadow call this guy? Like this guy right here was interesting. Like a cobra. So we're doing some little snake studies here. It's kind of fun. So I see that, yeah. So there's a bunch of little form studies here, and then we started out with this, just generating some very simple forms and looking at the overall impact of what generating an idea really means. And translate. I'll close with this. When you generate an idea, the most important thing about when you draw through this stuff is simply this. Very simply, nothing more than this. Always look at it from the point of view of what the definition of generation is. To generate something is to keep it in motion, to move it, to give it a spirit. And that's what the whole stream was today. I'm learning how to put together concept sketches for product design or just shape studies or whatever we're dealing with, whether it's G12, interior space, product design, architecture, you name it. Give your sketches some spirit and really get them to move. Let them generate ideas, generate enthusiasm, all the things that make a huge difference. So all that to say, gang, anything in closing here, any comments at all? Yays and nays? I hope this has been helpful to you today. It's really helped me, for sure, to go back to basics and get some really interesting things done and generated here. So anybody, any comments in closing here, please? We'll just hang on a minute here. Hi, Brad. Hey, how you doing, Brad? Good to have you on board, Chief. How you doing? No, you're not late. You're welcome, Bets. Good to have you on board. Thanks for hanging on here. And please tell Sam I said hello. It was interesting. Not bad. We're right here. I'm late. Missed. Yeah, I think if Brad, I started. Very sorry you came in late here. We just spent the whole 45 minutes or an hour on just putting some basic principles together and just rapid sketch rendering and generating some ideas. Just the form studies, looking at just nothing, giving no title to it at all. Just generating some shapes and forms and different surfaces and showing how to illustrate them. So it was really interesting. I'm really interested, so go back in here and look at this stuff. If you have any questions later on, drop me a note on my Discord. I'll be more than happy to help you. But I'm glad you had a chance to tune in. Hope you're doing well. And once again, I have a question. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, I'm hanging on here. Brett, what do you think your Brett, what do you think your question is going to be here? Discord. I'll hold on here for you, Brett. I just want to make sure that we don't miss you here. Hey, very good. You'll send a Discord? Very good, Brett. I'll look forward to that and get a response to you. And again, boy, very sorry. Nice stream with a lot of input. Yeah, thanks very much, Nemo. I think that was time to get back a little bit. We spent a lot of time over the past few sessions going through this whole process of to make things a bit easier. All right, yeah, that's good. But Nemo, thanks so much, because I think you're absolutely correct. We went through some G12 stuff, and after a while, I just want to back out a little bit and then take some time to analyze what that interior is going to do. And very helpful things here. I learned a lot today, too, just going back and reviewing some basic things to kind of keep it all fresh. So always great to have you on board, gang. Thank you so much. And Brad, look forward to your question on Discord. And for all of you, again, Bets, if you're still there, thank you very much. Tell Sam I said hello, and take care of yourself. And please, any questions or concerns, if things you want me to discuss or look at Illustrator Draw, please send me a note on my email address at jim@drcontrast.com. And also, please, if I've done something right, let me know. If I've done something wrong, please tell me. But again, I wish you all the very best, and please visit my website at drcontrast.com. We've got some neat stuff going on there. Things are changing nicely. We're adding a store, etc. And I always sign off with this, folks, please. And if you have, those of you in the audience, please pass the word along that I'm on streaming here on Twitch. It's really, I want to build my audience, and with your help, I hope we can get there to keep building it. And last but not least, I always sign off with this because I think it's the most important part of the whole stream. Never forget to remember to dare to be great, because you are. Thanks, gang. Have a great evening. Bye-bye now.